Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 16th March 2018. Now let us begin. Now we have taken this article from page 9. Now what this article talks about is the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill of 2018. Now let us understand this further. Now the reason for this bill is that there have been several instances of economic offenders fleeing the jurisdiction of Indian courts in anticipation of criminal proceedings or at times during an ongoing case. And because of the absence of such offenders from Indian courts, it obstructs the investigation in criminal cases and undermines the rule of law in India. So in order to address this problem and lay down measures to stop economic offenders evading the process of Indian law, it was proposed to enact the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill of 2018 to ensure that fugitive economic offenders return to India to face the action in accordance with law. Now the second question is as to what is the criteria for the fugitive economic offender. Now this bill defines a fugitive economic offender as an individual who has committed a scheduled offence and against whom a warrant for arrest has been issued by any court in India. Now these scheduled offences are those that are defined under the Indian Penal Code, Prevention of Corruption Act, SEBI Act, Customs Act, Companies Act, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, among others. Moreover, this scheduled offence has to be of an amount greater than rupees 100 crore. Or this individual has absconded from India or has refused to come back to India to avoid facing a criminal prosecution. Now the Ministry of External Affairs has submitted a list of roughly 31 individuals accused of economic offences such as Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, among others. Now the third question is, how is a person declared an offender? Now a director appointed by the central government will have to file an application to a special court to declare a person as a fugitive economic offender. And after this, the court will issue a notice to the person named as a fugitive economic offender, and with regards to this notice, the person will have to present themselves as per the demand of the special court. Now under this application that would be filed with the special court, now a list of properties or the value of such properties which may include such properties outside India which are believed to be the proceeds of the crime and for which confiscation is sought. And now if the person refuses to come back to India as per the orders of the special court, their properties as listed by the director would be confiscated. And once an order for confiscation is given, the special court will appoint an administrator to oversee the confiscated properties. And this administrator will be responsible for disposing of the property as well as the property will be used to satisfy the claims of the creditors. Now hopefully up till here you have understood. A fugitive economic offender is an individual who has committed a scheduled offence which involves an amount of equal or greater than rupees 100 crore and has absconded from India or has refused to come back to India to avoid criminal prosecution. Moreover, a director as appointed by the central government would file an application with the special court which would include the list of properties, including those outside India, of the economic offender for which confiscation is sought. And if the economic offender disobeys the special court's order, his property would be confiscated and would be overseen by an administrator. And these property would then be disposed of, and the money that would be generated would be used to satisfy the claims of the creditors. Now hopefully up till here you have understood the basic features of the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill of 2018. Now with regards to UPSC mains examination, questions have been asked such as on the new companies bill, the introduction of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. Similarly, questions can be asked on the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill of 2018 in your GS paper 3. Now with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken the lead editorial from page 8. Now what this article talks about is the increased number of ceasefire violations across the line of control between India and Pakistan. Now before analyzing this article, let us first understand as to where it is placed in the UPSC syllabus. Now the content of this editorial becomes a part of your GS paper 3 in the security section, and more specifically, role of external state in creating challenges to internal security and security challenges and their management in border areas. Now let us analyze the editorial. Now the author has highlighted that the ceasefire violations by Pakistan has dramatically increased across the line of control, wherein in the year 2015 there were 152 ceasefire violations, while in the year 2016 there were 228 ceasefire violations, while in the year 2017, the number of ceasefire violations jumped to 860, while just in the month of January 2018, the number of ceasefire violations by Pakistan has been at maximum level since the year 2003. And because of this increased ceasefire violations by Pakistan, India has similarly had to indulge in retaliatory defense firing. Now, apart from this, both countries, India and Pakistan, have also improved their weapons at the line of control to high caliber weapons. Now, because of the use of high caliber weapons, there has been an increase in civilian and military deaths. And similarly, there has been an increased damage to public and private property. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood the recent background with regards to the increased conflict between India and Pakistan across the LOC, that the number of ceasefire violations by Pakistan has increased dramatically within the past 3 years, and because of which, India has also indulged in retaliatory defense firings. And moreover, both countries have improved to high caliber weapons that are being used across the LOC, which has led to increased civilian and military deaths and more damage to public and private properties. Now, apart from this, the author has also given the strategy being used by India and Pakistan with regards to the LOC. Now, according to the author, after the ceasefire agreement was signed between India and Pakistan in 2003, India has followed three strategies. Now, these three strategies are with regards to on how India would deal with the ceasefire violations from Pakistan. Now, according to the author, the first strategy is of talks over bullets. Now, it means that India would engage in talks with Pakistan rather than engage in retaliatory defense firing with regards to the ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Now, according to the author, one pro or advantage of this policy is that it has shown quieter borders, meaning that under this strategy there has been low ceasefire violations by Pakistan. While the disadvantage of this policy that even by engaging with talks with Pakistan, this strategy has failed to stop cross-border terrorism. Now, the second strategy that the author has highlighted is talks and bullet. Now, under this strategy, India would continue to engage in talks with Pakistan while similarly retaliating with defense firing in proportional strength to the ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Now, according to the author, the advantage of this policy is that the ceasefire violations by Pakistan does not escalate. While the disadvantage of this strategy, according to the author, is that there is an increased political cost with each ceasefire violation and cross border terrorism. A demand is raised from the general public and from the Indian media for an increased retaliation to Pakistan and a halt of talks. While the third strategy, as highlighted by the author, is of disproportionate bombardment, wherein under this policy, India would retaliate at an increased proportion to every ceasefire violation by Pakistan. And according to the author, the advantage of this policy is that the political rewards of huge retaliatory defense firings, while according to the author, the disadvantage of this policy is that once the conflict is escalated at the line of control, it becomes difficult to de escalate. Now, in this case, if both governments want to talk to each other or negotiate, it becomes difficult to de escalate the high level of conflict that is going on at the line of control. And by de escalation and going back to talks, it hampers the political rewards that are achieved from disproportionate bombardment. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that after the 2003 ceasefire agreement was signed between India and Pakistan, India has approached the ceasefire violations by Pakistan with three different strategies. Now, apart from this, the author has also highlighted the strategy used by Pakistan. Now, according to the author, the first strategy of Pakistan with regards to the ceasefire violations across the LOC is to not escalate the ceasefire violations, wherein it may lead to a larger conflict. The second strategy of Pakistan is to ensure that it keeps the Kashmir issue at the forefront as a means of negotiations for de escalation of ceasefire violations. And the third strategy, as highlighted by the author, is that Pakistan continues to propose confidence building measures or de escalation measures such as talks between the DGMO, which are meant for the international audience so as to showcase that Pakistan is interested in lowering the ceasefire violations. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have also understood the Pakistan strategy with regards to the ceasefire violations across the line of control, wherein, according to the author, Pakistan has ensured that it continues to indulge in ceasefire violations but avoids escalating it to a larger conflict. Moreover, it continues to indulge in ceasefire violation so as to keep the Kashmir issue at the forefront. And lastly, Pakistan also continues to propose measures for de-escalation of conflict at the line of control, as to showcase to the international audience that Pakistan is interested in peace across the LOC. Now, the current issue, according to the author, is that according to the author, India and Pakistan have different priorities, meaning that India wants an end to cross border terrorism, while according to the author, the priority of Pakistan is to ensure that India indulges in talks over Kashmir. Now, because of these different priorities, the author has recommended that India and Pakistan should find a common medium to address the expectations and priorities of both the countries. And moreover, both countries should avoid escalation across the LOC. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that according to the author, both India and Pakistan have different priorities, wherein India wants an end to cross border terrorism, while Pakistan wants to indulge India on talks on Kashmir. And because of this, the author has recommended that India and Pakistan should address the concerns and priorities of each other, and also both countries should avoid the escalation of conflict across the LOC into a larger conflict. Now, with this, we move on to our next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 13. Now, the focus of this article is that the United States has challenged India's export subsidies at the World Trade Organization. Now, the United States has requested dispute settlement consultation with India at the World Trade Organization. Now, the dispute has arisen with the United States complaining about India's export subsidy programs. Now, the Government of India currently has various export subsidy schemes such as Merchandise Exports of India Scheme, Export Oriented Unit, Export Promotion Capital Goods Scheme, Special Economic Zones, Duty-Free Imports for Exporters Program, and similarly other schemes. Now, according to the United States, because of these export subsidy programs, Indian exporters are able to sell their products at a cheaper rate to increase their margin and thereby decrease their price for international market. And because of this, the United States has claimed that it has hurt American companies. Now, hopefully up till here, you have understood that the United States wants to enter into dispute settlement consultations with India at the World Trade Organization. The United States has claimed that India's export subsidy programs has allowed Indian exporters to increase their margins and decrease price, and thereby decline the competitiveness of US product. And therefore, the WTO would look whether these subsidy programs of India can be considered as trade distortions. Now, this news is in transition, and we would have to wait as to what would be the response of India and of the World Trade Organization. And therefore, we move on to our next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 13. Now, the reason this article is in the news is because the International Energy Forum would be held in India from 10th to 12th April. And India has said that it would raise the issue of Asian premium at this forum, and that the oil producing and exporting countries, or OPEC, should follow a responsible price mechanism. Now, with regards to this article, what is important from your prelims perspective is to understand as to what is an Asian premium. Now, Asia is far more dependent on oil imports from the Middle East, particularly the countries of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, among others, while European countries can also source their oil from West Africa, Latin American countries such as Venezuela, Russia, among others. And because of this dependence of Asian countries on the Middle East, it is widely believed that Asian customers or Asian countries have been paying extra for importing crude oil from the Middle East as compared to the US or the European countries. Now, according to several reports, Asian countries have been paying roughly around $1 higher than European countries. And this is because Asian countries are more dependent on oil from the Middle East, and because European countries have much more suppliers, such as from Latin America, West Africa, they're able to negotiate for a better price from the Middle East countries. And this extra price that the Asian countries pay is known as the Asian premium. Now, questions have been asked in your UPSC prelims examination, such as broad-based trade and investment agreement is sometimes seen in the news. The term domestic content requirement is sometimes seen in the news. Or the term digital single market strategy is sometimes seen in the news. And similarly, a question can be asked as that the term Asian premium is sometimes seen in the news. And the question can be as to what does it refer to. Now, with this, we move on to the next article. Now, because of the recent bank frauds, the RBI had decided to ban the letters of undertaking or LOUs as well as letters of comfort or LOC issued by bankers to business for international transactions. Now, the focus of this article is that the decision of the RBI to ban LOUs is not a solution to the problem of the bank frauds. Now, according to the author, the banning of LOUs will have a negative impact on the export-import sector. Now, this is because LOUs are the most popular credit instruments to secure overseas credit by importers, and wherein, according to the article, roughly 60% of total bank finance for import in India is financed by this. And because of this ban on LOUs, importers will now have to rely on expensive sources of credit, such as bank guarantees, letters of credit, among other instruments. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that according to this article, the ban on letters of undertaking that has been imposed by the RBI due to the recent bank frauds is not a solution, wherein this ban on LOUs will have a negative impact on the import-export sector of India, since LOUs are the most popular financial instrument that are used by importers to secure overseas credit, wherein it forms around 60% of the total bank finance for imports. And since these letters of undertaking have been banned by the RBI, importers would now have to rely on expensive sources of credit, such as bank guarantees, letters of credit, etc. Now with this, we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this article from page 9. Now the focus of this article is that India needs to re-engage with Russia. And the reason given by the author as to why India needs to re-engage with Russia is that both India and Russia are drifting apart from each other. And the reason both India and Russia have drifted apart is because India has drifted closer to the United States, while Russia has actually drifted closer to China and is further growing closer to Pakistan. Now, the reason given by the author as to why this has happened, wherein India and Russia have drifted apart, with India drifting closer to the United States and Russia growing closer to China and improving its ties with Pakistan. And the reason it has happened is because of the change in the New World Order. And according to the author, this changed global order has been due to the rise of China, and because of which India has drifted closer to the United States in the form of the quadrilateral group so as to balance the rise of China, while similarly there is a growing conflict between Russia and the United States and its European allies such as France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. And this growing conflict can be seen in the Ukrainian crisis, the Russian meddling in the elections of the United States, and attempted meddling in the elections of European countries such as Germany, France, and others. And because of this growing conflict between Russia and the United States, Russia has also grown closer to China, while Russia is growing closer to Pakistan, in which both Pakistan and Russia recently had a military exercise called Druzhba, which was most recently held in 2017. Now, this fact also becomes important for your prelims examination as to which military exercise was conducted between Russia and Pakistan. You should know the answer is Druzhba 2017. Moreover, Russia has also shown inclination to support Pakistan's membership to the nuclear suppliers group. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that according to the author, India needs to re-engage its ties with Russia, and this is because India and Russia have been drifting apart, wherein India has grown closer to the United States, while Russia has grown closer to China and Pakistan. And this change in international relations has been due to the changed global order, wherein the rise of China and the growing conflict between Russia and the United States and Europe has led to a shift in allies. Now, the author also gives a solution on how India and Russia could re-engage their ties, wherein India and Russia should find specific aims of cooperation, such as improving people-to-people contact, apart from other specific aims of cooperation, which the author does not specify. Now, this article and the explanation given in this section becomes important from your GS paper 2 in the International Relations section. Now with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's paper. Now we move on to the question for today.